What is a soul intervention, and how do you know if you just might be someone who needs one? Hi, my name is Nancy Rebecca, and if you're new to my YouTube channel, I'm a registered nurse, psychic, clairvoyant healer who's always interested in kind of revealing and sharing with you what your human energy field looks like. And in this video, we're going to be talking about, that movement that seems to be happening in the world, but maybe it just doesn't seem to be happening for you. So I'm going to talk about soul interventions, and what does that mean exactly? Well, Spirit came to me a few days ago and was talking to me about, of course, this expansiveness, this awakening, the evolutionary process that's happening for humanity and the world. We're getting the blue light and the diamond light and the silver light, and we're having the star beings and ascended masters and angels. We're having our connections to the earth and the underworld. So there's a lot that's happening. However, as Spirit is saying, no one's going to be left behind. So let's just talk about this for a minute. So these are the notes that I wrote down. I'm going to start with. Nancy, no one is left behind, even if that person does not connect with those very important connections, like with Mother Earth and the celestial realm, the cosmic realm. With their body, their spirit is still of a divine nature. And so for those who are standing at the threshold, or who may be even making steps backwards, there will be events in life that will be created to help push you into what I will call the awakening zone. If you do not allow the natural unfolding of waking up and taking the steps to wake up, to waking you up, then there will be interventions from your own soul to help to make that happen. So that's what's called a soul intervention. Your own spirit will intervene to create situations that will force you to wake up, like a fire that is ignited in the forest that makes the ground so hot that certain seeds are forced to burst open. So this is what we're talking about a soul intervention. And are you someone who just might be in need of an enormous soul intervention? So there was a time where often Spirit will say, when I'm working with clients, they will bring through this message that I would share with my clients that I would be doing psychic readings for and healings for. And they would use the term move or be moved. So what Spirit means by that is you really want to listen to your gut instincts. You want to listen to that internal voice of your own spirit through your own inner voice. You want to listen to your soul that is kind of nudging you along in a certain direction. And even though you're really afraid, you want to make some movement in that direction. You want to intervene on your own behalf. You want to move yourself long before your soul needs to intervene and make that move for you. And so that's what it's all about today. There's a lot of people who are still frozen and not quite sure what's going on. Mental health is so on the rise that our medical system and even the global medical system doesn't even know what to do, how to help at this level that people are suffering from mental health, but also we just don't have enough people to meet the demands of what is needed. So what is happening here is there's a disconnect from the spirit, there's a disconnect from the soul, and your spirit is attempting to get your attention to wake up to your own consciousness, wake up to your own divinity, wake up to your own purpose, wake up to the meaning of your own life. So for me, I can give an example about my own life where I'm kind of tooling along, and I like to be quite active. I like to keep busy. Even when I was working, I could work 2 to 3 hamburger joints at the same time when I was in my early 20s. I ended up getting married and having a family. And while I was working, I was going to school at night to become a nurse. Then once I became a nurse, it was like I loved being a nurse so much. It was like you just couldn't give me enough hours. Every time they called me on the phone and said, "Can you fill in for another shift?" I'm like, "Yeah, absolutely." And so I was always working, always moving, and always having projects going on at home. And then I reached a period of time where my health was kind of declining a little bit. I was still in my early 30s, late 20s, early 30s, but I began to notice that emotionally I wasn't having that much resilience. I was finding myself getting tired, I was getting fatigued, but I just kept working and I kept doing what I thought I needed to be doing and still taking care of my family because that kept me going. That kept me in a place where I could ignore and not hear the signals of my own soul. And then I went through a period of time where I did actually have a physical collapse. I did have several major surgeries. I was sick in the hospital for quite a while. So my spirit was basically saying, "All right, Nancy, you didn't listen to me at this point, and you didn't listen to me at this point, and you didn't listen to me at this point. So we're going to stop you, full stop. You're going to get sick and you're going to have to lay in that hospital bed, or you're going to have to lay in bed at home, and you're just going to have to face yourself." And even after that, I still didn't listen. And so as soon as I felt good again, I went back to work. I went back to the routine that was familiar to me. I went back to doing the things that felt life-giving, felt like my life had meaning, felt like my life had purpose. But this is where it was empty and shallow. I wasn't really doing things for myself. I wasn't putting myself first. I mean, I can go through the whole gauntlet of the list, and I'm sure you all can make that list for me. And then my spirit said, as I was going through a lot of stress, "Well, let's just see if we can throw her out of her body. We're going to have her have an out-of-body experience. And now maybe, just maybe, her soul will intervene to get her attention, and maybe this time she'll listen." And that's exactly what happened to me. I had an out-of-body experience. I was told I was full of love. I was full of light. I could suddenly see energy fields, and it was like, holy smokes, there's a lot more going on in my world than I ever imagined. And so that was really, I call it my down on my knees moment, but that was a pivotal moment that shifted me. My spirit intervened because my spirit knew that I needed an intervention, and that's what happened. And so that's what we're talking about. What is a soul intervention? Do you think you need a soul intervention? And since that time, I've learned to listen to those signals, to make movements on my own so that my soul doesn't have to intervene. I don't have to get sick. I don't need the 2x4 effect to get me to listen anymore. So, humanity is experiencing a global awakening of consciousness. This we know. And that, again, I keep being told no one will be left behind, but I'm looking around and it looks like there's a lot of people swimming in that unconscious world that doesn't have a clue what's happening, and maybe even might have a clue but has doubt or doesn't believe that anything is changing. So your own soul is built, is made, and there are certain things in your spiritual life path, whether you're conscious of it or not, that are put into place along the way. These are choice points. And I'm told that we can have up to 12 choice points in our life where it's like you're driving down the road and here comes the exit sign and it's got your name on it. And it's like, all right, you're going at 500 miles an hour in your life. You have an opportunity to take this exit and make a change. But you look at that exit and you start measuring, my life's going to change too much. I'm going to let people down. I don't know if I could cope with that, or I'm not worthy of that. So all your mind gets really involved, and you, by the time you're kind of starting to get it together, you have passed that exit and you are still on this ride or die path of going 500 miles an hour in your life. And then eventually there's a lot more that's piled on. There's a lot more chaos. There's a lot more disruption in your relationships, in your work. There's a lot, maybe you've added gambling or drugs or drinking. And then you get to here you've got that exit that's got your name on it just above. And it's like, okay, it's okay. You've got your spirit. Now your spirit's on the roadway waving the flags, and you just blow past it again. So how many of these exits are you going to blow by before you really start to listen to the signals of those natural unfolding ways that your spirit is helping to intervene in your life? How many times are you going to blow past those before you finally get it? Now, for some people, it takes some big things. I mean, for me, I had some major surgeries at a very young age. Did I listen? No, I went right back to the same stuff. How many of you have had extreme illnesses that you've had to be hospitalized for? Or how many of you have run yourself into the ground so much that your physical body is so burned out, tapped out, depleted, that you just don't have the energy to even get in the car and drive anymore? Or how many of you have had car accidents? Or how many of you have maybe experienced a loved one's sudden death that was not expected, and then that got your attention? These are what are called soul intervening things that can happen in your life that can be quite life-changing. Like, I have a lot of clients that didn't seem to pay much attention to life, and then one of their parents died. Usually it's a mother, especially when your mother dies, and then suddenly your spiritual life, you feel like your spiritual life flips upside down. And now all of a sudden you want to know, is there a heaven? Is there a hell? Is there a place that my mother went? Can my mother really communicate with me on the other side? Those are what's called soul intervening moments, where it's an event that gets your attention to pay attention to the fact that you have a soul, a natural spirit that is involved in your life, that's helping you to make the best right decisions for you. It's helping you to manage the energetics of your life and everything else that's going on in your life. So what are some of the ways that that you can also bypass your life? Well, another way that you can bypass that exit is by just talking about your problem over and over and over and over again. So you're talking the same story, the same issue, and trust me, I know that that issue has to be painful. I know that that life experience derailed you, and you have an opportunity to process that and move forward. But if you're kind of spinning in that and you're not able to process it, whether it's going to get a therapist or whether you're journaling about it or you're meditating with it, then you can kind of get caught in this cycle. Now, what happens with the storyteller is, when you tell the story, you feel better. So you have somebody to listen to, you tell the story, you feel better. But then that pressure starts to build again. And so now you want to talk to another person, and now you're going to share your story, which relieves the pressure, and then you feel better. And then that intensity starts to build again. And your spirit is intervening as much as it can, saying, hey, why don't you pick up this meditation book? Or why don't you go for a walk or go to the gym and start working things out? Why don't you get a therapist? And you don't, but you talk to another friend about it or somebody at work, and then that pressure's relieved. And that can buy you time. And sometimes it'll buy you time of a month, 3 months, 6 months, or a year. But I will tell you, just working with the energy field of you who's going through that story cycle, that cycle's going to come faster and faster and faster and faster, to the point that now that story's coming up every day, and no matter how much you talk it out, it is not going away. That's where you really want, your soul wants to intervene on your behalf. Your soul is like, here, let me into your body. Let me into your life. Let me light up all the aspects of you that are strong and loving and life-giving and worth living, where your soul really wants to come in and intervene. So your soul's always giving you impressions. So I talk about it's like a boiling pot that once you tell the story, the boiling water calms down. And then when it builds up again, it boils over. You tell the story and it calms down. But this is the thing, when I, as a clairvoyant healer, and I'm looking at your energy field, one time I was shown an image of one of those big cast iron pots. What do they call them? A Dutch oven. You might take them when you're camping, you make a little fire in the ground, you put it in there. And what happens is it can get cooking at a really high boil rate again. And have you ever heard a pot where the lid is just pop, 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 because the boiling pot is causing the lid to raise up? So Spirit showed me with a client that I was reading that the client had taken their hands and they just pushed all their upper body weight to hold that lid down that was boiling in this black cast iron pot. So then Spirit showed me that, okay, that's not enough, and now it's trying to erupt again in your life, and now you've taken both legs, so now you've got both hands, both legs, your full body is standing on this pot to try to block what it is inside of you that needs to be released. So what Spirit was showing me, it was like, do you know how much energy it takes to avoid and not allow your soul to intervene and come into your life and help you to release and surrender all that old pain? It takes a lot of energy. All right, so with the client, I said, just pretend like you're stepping on the ground, pretend you're taking your hands off the pot, take the lid off, and just let it boil over. And instantly, just with that symbolic representation, the client felt much better. And then we could get to what's in the boiling pot that you're having a hard time coping with. Then I had another client, and the image was the client is sitting in the water up to the water's up to their waist. And they're screaming and crying, and they're splashing the water, and they feel like they're drowning, and the water's so overwhelming, and the water's going this way and every which way. And then Spirit said, tell them to stand up in the image. And when they went to stand up, it's like the water was to their ankles. So that was Spirit's way of saying that sometimes we can get so caught up in our feelings and our stress and our anxiety that it's like we can make things so much more complicated. Or our spirit is saying, hey, let me offer you a hand out of that pool of water. Why don't you take a step out? So again, there's many ways that our mind really can grab hold of things and not let loose. But you just simply just close your eyes and just say, help. I need help. Now, often we know how much that can help if you can reach out to another person, say, I need help. But when you reach to your own soul, you close your eyes to your higher power of your soul and you say, I need help. And this is, I don't know what kind of help I need, but I need help. Can you make it obvious for me? So that helps a lot. So you heard me talking about that kind of overworking hours and more hours, staying up all hours of the night, cleaning the house. You want to recognize as this can be another bypass. You're on that highway going 500 miles an hour and you are blowing past the exits over and over and over again. And I know the belief that I had as a woman, as a wife, as a mother, as someone, as a nurse, as someone who had overcare and concern for others. I really thought everybody's life would fall apart if I stopped. And it was like, no matter what I would say, I could not convince myself that everybody was going to be okay. And then my spirit said to me, so what if you worked yourself to death and you were just gone, you exited the planet? They would find a way to resolve their issues. And what I realized in a lot of places in my life, people were so happy to see that I had found balance in my life again, and it enabled them to find balance in their life again. So I talked about, or Spirit talked about, that hot fire along the ground that heats up your life so much. Now, I'm not talking about literal heat. I'm just talking about like a lot of chaos and a lot of drama. So that's that represented by out of control fire in the forest can heat the ground up so much that the seed bursts open to start to grow and to start to blossom. So how does your spirit get your attention? Well, often your spirit will kind of nudge you in certain ways with little ideas. It'll say, hey, why don't you go for a walk in the park today? I should go for a walk in the park today. And then your mind says, you can't do that. You've got to get the laundry done today, or you can't do that because you've already made these commitments. So that first voice of the day, when you first wake up, your spirit really loves to come through then, because your mind is still calm enough that you can hear and sense what your spirit is saying. The other ways that your spirit can get your attention is, you can't start the car, the battery's dead, or you can't find your keys, or you're driving to work and you keep hitting every single light, or you keep hitting every traffic jam. Does this mean you're not supposed to go to your destination? No, that's not what it means. But what it does mean is, hey, something's up. Pay attention. And so even if you just make a note to say, hey, later I'm going to spend some time kind of tuning in and finding out what's coming up that my spirit's trying to get my attention. Sometimes your spirit's going to intervene by somebody else talking to you. It's like, hey, how you doing? You're looking kind of tired lately. Or, hey, I've been wanting to contact you. I've been wanting to go for a hike. Or, that our favorite musician that we like to listen to. Or we've always wanted to make that trip, to Mexico. Why don't we plan that this year? So sometimes people will kind of come in. Your spirit is inspiring them to come in and invite you to pay attention to maybe take that exit and go to that show, or go for a cup of coffee with a friend. So there's all kinds of ways that your spirit is going to get your attention. And other ways you can have relationships end. That can be a way that your spirit intervenes. Sometimes you lose your job. That can be a way that your spirit intervenes. Sometimes you're trying to plan a party and it's falling apart, and that's your way of spirit intervening. So we are in a time where intuition and psychic ability, that navigational map that you were born with, is available to you. It's the way that your spirit communicates to you. And I will say that for some of you, your spirit communicates through a feeling. For some of you, your spirit communicates through a voice or a sound or a certain song that comes across the radio may be your way of your spirit communicating with you. And for some of you, you're going to get visual images of seeing yourself in a different place than you are, or your spirit's just going to let you know that it's trying to intervene because of a strong knowingness. So, yes, there's a lot of people. No one's going to be left behind, but there are many, many people who just haven't had that soul intervention yet. And so I'm hoping and I'm passing on and encouraging you to move yourself before your spirit has to come up with some type of clever way to get your attention otherwise. So I look forward to seeing you on the next call. I love looking up in the river of life and seeing you all there with me. I would love to hear your soul intervening moments. Why? Because so many people read these comments and they want to know what your soul intervention moments were that really changed the direction of your life and help you get on that awakening train. If you don't know what your intuitive style is, you can go right to my website. You can click on intuitive style questionnaire, put in your email, and it will be sent immediately to your email box. If you don't see it there, check your spam folder. All right, everyone, thanks again for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you on the next call. Bye-bye.